there are big and small cycles in spiritual life. When I came back from the monastery, the first period of training I had done, starting in the 1960s, in Thailand and Burma, Laos, after being in robes for several years and studying as a layman for some years in monasteries, I was very calm and very spacious and quite concentrated, and my consciousness was really empty and pure. I sat with my father, who'd had an accident, was in a hospital just some weeks after I got back, and almost died from an overdose of anesthesia. He had general anesthetic for this and came very close to dying. And I was just sitting there meditating. He asked me afterward, and I was doing metta for him, how it was for me. And I said, well, I was very calm. I was just meditating and doing some loving kindness meditation for you. He got really upset. He said, don't you care for me? You know, you weren't. But I was very, very calm. For a year, I had no fear. My mind was just so spacious. But I got involved back in graduate school studying psychology, which interested me. I got in therapy. I got a job driving a taxi in Boston to pay for graduate school. I got in a relationship with a woman that I'd known before. And by the end of that year, it was almost as if I had never gone to those years in the monastery. That's the truth. There was, however, one big difference. It was very clear. I was doing the same old things, but I would find myself in the middle of doing them and I'd say, far out, I thought I'd never do that one again, and here I am doing it. It was really clear to me. And being clear, I also remembered or sensed or knew from my spiritual practice that there was some other way. And so that began the process, not of just seeing something different, but actually of becoming different. And for me, it was a process with many, many cycles to it. Inner cycles and outer cycles. Times when you're in silence, times when you relate back in the world of the business of your life or your family or the political or economic environment. When I look at my own practice over the past 25 years, I sense that in an odd way, I've kind of worked my way down the chakras. In the beginning of practice, I started studying Buddhism and I got very excited by the Dharma, and then I went to monasteries where I did training, and it had a lot to do with my mind, getting insight and vision and understanding, and I wanted to know. There's a certain kind of power in knowing. I wanted to be someone who knew, who understood. And so I spent those years both learning and training my mind, and I did. I did it very hard. I would sit and do whatever the teacher said for weeks and months, and lights and visions and understanding and insight and all that kind of stuff happened. And it was very far out, and I felt like I knew a lot, which was a problem, of course, but and still remains a problem. So, as a matter of fact, we'll just they say if you really want to know about a spiritual teacher, speak to their spouse. Anyway, at some point, in returning to this country and practicing, what I began to see was, although I had a lot of clarity and understanding, I was really out of touch with myself emotionally. I'd had, like most people in America, it turns out, pretty painful childhood. And the nuclear family in which I grew up was nuclear, right? As they are. And part of that strategy to deal with that was just not to feel very much, to go into my mind. So I realized that I didn't love very well. I didn't even know how to be intimate in a deep way with people or things, and that I was quite frightened. And I went through a series of difficult relationships, just replaying the old patterns again. So I got into therapy, and I continued to meditate, and I worked a lot with loving kindness and compassion meditation, all while I was teaching and did my graduate work. And for 10 years, the main work that I had focused on, and still do to some extent, was simply learning how to love better and how to feel, to reclaim the feelings, the whole range of feelings, from joy to sorrow to anger, and with that, to have some capacity for empathy and feeling and love.